Hey, welcome. Early morning here, kind of a gray morning. Probably brighten up a little bit as we go. But we're going to paint for the next 30 minutes to 60 minutes or so. We're on Brodhead Creek in Mini Sink Park. And we're going to paint on a 7" by 5" canvas panel. What's different about this today is we're going to be using a palette that is left over from our last painting, and we're painting in acrylics. So let's see how it goes. Kept this moist by keeping it covered. I don't want, that's cad red. I don't want too much of that. Go ahead and dip into our transparent orange oxide and tone the canvas. Tilt that down a little bit more so you can see it a little better. So the last painting I did using acrylics, it was a dry, sunny day, and what I did was just a little experiment. I sprayed down the palette with the paints one last time, a couple of spritzes, closed the lid and kept it flat as possible. And to my surprise, the paints stayed pretty moist. So it's a good thing, because if we stay organized and diligent with this, we'll be able to reuse leftover paint. I've been throwing a lot of paint away. That's a waste of money. Just use my spritz bottle to wet the canvas a little bit, and the mostly transparent orange oxide that's on there for my toning here. And I'm going to wipe away in some spots. Got my shop towel. Just gonna look up at this scene. I'll tilt you up one more time. And I'll show you through my makeshift viewfinder the scene that we're focusing on, which is pretty much that right there. All those lighter spots we're gonna wipe out with my shop towel, while my tone is on my canvas is still a little wet. I'm not going to create a perfect value underpainting, but it'll kind of do a good job of getting us close to at least mapping out where the lighter values are. And I might exaggerate a few things here and there, but I'm just gonna go ahead and okay. I'll tilt you back down and switch to a medium-sized angle brush here. A little bit of black, a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, and probably a little mixture of orange in there too, to create a grayish dark purple. And we're going to map out some of the darker values. lighten up. And blue out this gray a little bit. For that field in the background. Orange and blue. Blue and orange. It's going to create like a grayish green. A little bit of white. If you've viewed videos and live streams on this channel before, you probably know that I've painted this scene a couple of times, so I'm real familiar with it. Get some of that down into the water here as well. It's going to come out a little bit. Get some of that here. Get some of our latest values in, just so we can make sure that we're as accurate as we can. Kind of keying off of the sky, which will be the brightest or amongst the brightest shapes in the painting. Got a little blue, a little bit of orange, transparent orange oxide in this puddle right here. And layered over the top of that orange tone, that'll probably get close to what we need. It might be a little cooler than we want. I'm just gonna fill in this space, maybe a little bit more orange, a little bit of my burnt sienna. There we go. Some areas like this edge here, I won't go all the way to the edge because I got to fill out that group of tree shapes a little bit. Whoops, got a little crazy there. Got a little cad red in my puddle, which is fine. Come over the top of that. A little bit later. Not going to worry about the sky holes cutting through the tree shapes yet. I'm just going to get that filled out. Got a little bit of blue. Just dance between some warmer sky color and cooler sky color. Hopefully it creates some interesting effects, maybe a little color vibration. See? All right, there we go. We are going to bring this down. There's not much more I'm going to do to that background plane there with those trees in the background, other than just create some color and temperature variance, and subtle hits of detail. some of the cooler sky color in the reflections that we have going on. Got some fish jumping out in the water. This is a pretty good trout stream, so I believe we'll likely see some trout activity early in the morning here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna take a break from that. And use a little filbert here to get some of our greens in. I got this runny pile of orange and yellow here. We're just gonna mix in some of our ultramarine blue. I want to make sure we don't do away with all the dark area. There's quite a bit of areas of darker greens and near blacks there. We want to make sure that we maintain those. Help create the illusion of depth. Get a little bit more of a yellowy green going. For trees and shrubs that are near the bank here. Just like I mentioned earlier, we will focus on creating some variance in color temperature and so forth, but we're going to leave that toward the end. We're going to get a much lighter, paler yellowy green going here. Right here, the sun is connecting, landing on some of these planes. Oops, I need a thinner brush for that. Okay. All right, we're getting there. All the basic shapes are in, almost the entire canvas is covered. We're gonna go ahead and work in some suggestion of those darker shapes again. And I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush. I have a very thin, bright, I don't know what number this is. It might be I don't know, might be a 1 or a 2. I dip into my black, a little bit of blue, a little bit of that grayish green that we had, a little bit of orange. I'm not adverse to using pure black, but it's just not what I see. I see some colors in and amongst these shadows. Also just makes it more interesting when you have a mixture of warmer colors, warmer darks, and cooler darks, and so forth. Okay. And this is basically the process we're going to follow here. Just going to fill out these areas. I want to leave some of that orange peeking through, but not a lot. Going to push the bluish gray here into the background and lighten it up a little bit as well, in hopes that that helps enhance the illusion of depth using aerial perspective. Cooler, less saturated colors, less detail in the background. We'll come back down another passage with that sky color, so it's not going to be left the way it is. And we got to get, I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to get a kind of a really dark green. Mostly yellow ochre and black. A little bit of that gray to get the underside of the shore bank here in the background and even in the foreground too. And the midground areas. And we will adjust that quite a bit, but just wanted to make sure that I kind of laid down that line, kind of serve as a guidepost for me. I'll have that color on here. I'm gonna kind of a bluish grayish green. I'm gonna get that into the midground here where these trees are, because I see that same hue and that same value. Gonna get a muddy green going again, a little bit lighter for the surface of the creek that's in shadow. We're going to come through here again and enhance some of these shapes that are making up these reflections. So it looks quite messy now, but as long as we don't run out of time or have some other issue to deal with, we'll neaten these up just a little bit so it looks a little better. I'm going to blue this out a little bit more. We're going to get some color temperature variance in here. You can see it's much bluer. Just want to make it a little bit more interesting than it would otherwise be if it all was the same color temperature. Come along pretty nicely. I want to address this here. We're going to use our CAD red. I'm going to use the same brush, why not? And ultramarine blue and get a nice desaturated purple going. With the orange and the green that's on my brush, it's very desaturated, and we're going to use that for this little pathway of pebbles, river stone. Kind of an underpainting here for that, and go ahead and that'll be the mid-tone for that broader shape. We'll get some of that into the shorelines elsewhere. Even if we don't see it, just to hopefully bring some color harmony. And while we have that purple on the brush, we're going to dip into our titanium white and our gray while we have that purple on our brush, and we'll use that to indicate some of the light reflecting off of the stones you see here on the bottom right. Try to vary the shapes a little bit. And we'll get some darker ones in there too. All right, 25 minutes in. Wipe this out. What I do see is in the foreground here, kind of, and you see this a lot of times in these creeks, the shallow part of the creek bed closest to the bank, you'll start to see more of the creek bed shine through, and it's typically in this area of the country going to be kind of like a reddish, ochreish shade of gray, and we'll try and match that as best we can here using this puddle of burnt sienna, yellow ochre, a little bit of gray. You can kind of make that out a little bit. It's a little more purple than I'd like it to be, but Still might work okay. Let's see. More of that yellow ochre. There we go. So start working that in. The challenge always is the sunlight shifts and the water surface changes as the wind shifts. What we're seeing now might be different than what we're seeing 5, 10, 15 minutes from now, 2 seconds from now. That's okay. It's all part of this plein air painting process, and it's good. It strengthens your observation muscles. Also forces you to paint faster. Don't overthink things. Stay in the moment. Get some of that here as well. All right. I'll come back and do another passage of that sky color. It's kind of a interesting gray right now. I think we have a color close to that here. A smaller brush involved in applying this sky color. Maybe get a little bit of that orange in there, just a little bit. All right, I'm going to use the same brush. Now we're going to blue that out just a little bit. Blue and orange will definitely make a gray. A little bit more blue, it's a cooler gray. A little bit more orange, it's a warmer gray. And I want a slightly cooler gray for some of the marks I'm going to make off into the distance here. More fish jumping. Okay, getting close here. I'm gonna start out with a little bit of a darker green, darker, cooler green. Black, blue, a little bit of yellow ochre. And we're gonna start laying in some suggestion of some of these taller grasses. If other colors mix in, that's okay. There's all kinds of stuff going on there that we wouldn't necessarily be able to render carefully. All right, I'm gonna reinforce some of the darker areas here. Gonna dip into my burnt sienna with the blackish green I have and suggest some sticks and tree trunks. Got a little bit of that in the darker shadow areas in the water. Little bug. Okay. So I'm just gonna look up a little bit here for a second and evaluate where we're at. We're in a pretty good space here with the painting. Might take a couple of steps forward with the effort just to bring this to life a little bit more. I'm going to go into my purplish color here, a little bit of black, a little bit of yellow ochre, and create a dark muddy green. And just work my way through and enhance some of these shapes. Also eradicate some of the orange that's not really working. Could be too much of a good thing for sure. Love that peeking through, but at the same time, don't want it to distract. Break up some of these reflections. Just keep working this way here until we get it closer to where we want it to be. Probably finish, well, we'll have a time limit within the next 15 minutes where we'll have to wrap up anyway, but we'll probably get it real close to looking much more finished by that point anyway, if we just keep patiently working this way. Another finer brush, and we're gonna get a little bit of those yellowish green highlights in select areas throughout. Kind of a lighter bluish green. Amongst many of the trees that have foliage under the tree canopy. So we'll just hint at some of that. All right, probably one last pass through with and I would suggest some of those trees with lighter bark kind of have a more yellowy, grayish, greenish hue to them. And I'm pretty sure that's a mixture of some dead trees that are dried out, and also just some lighter colored trees. Off in the distance there, we have them too. That's a little too light, too much white there. And we're gonna get a little bit of that green. I'm gonna gray it out a little bit, reflected in the water here. Tamp that down a little bit. It's just a little too intense there. And all right, I think we're done. I think that's it. Gonna wrap up. There's more I could do to fade out. Maybe I'll do that, some dry brushing off in the distance here. Just be careful not to overdo it. bluish, purplish gray going here, because we do have a row of trees in the background. That's kind of dissolving off into the haze. There we go. All right, I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. Hope you have a great day and a great week. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.